and I listened more, and it changed our relationship. So the first principle is to be able to show children love. That's not a surprise to you. But sometimes as parents, we feel like our responsibility is to discipline our children rather than to love them. Loving a child means spending time with them. It also means showing them affection. It includes praising what they do. It includes having conversations with them and just generally assuring children that they are loved. And sometimes when parents are having trouble with children, they tend to go to discipline as the solution. While children may need discipline, often when they're struggling, what they need more is love from their parents. And love also means that you don't try to force or coerce your children. Parents are generally more successful if they try to lead by example. And parental behaviors like threats, shouting, withdrawing love, they may change behavior, but they generally ruin the relationship with children. The second general principle of parenting is to set limits for children. Of course, this includes setting rules. Generally, when children are young, parents set the rules. But as children grow older, it's important to involve them in discussions about rules. And in those discussions, children can even participate in setting consequences for breaking the rules. And so the consequences for breaking a rule should be decided on beforehand, rather than a parent using their own power because they're older, they're bigger, rather than using their power to enforce the rules. So the third principle of parenting, we could call, in English we call it latitude, but that means that we encourage a child to be as independent as they can. So as children get older, it means that we should expect them more and more to help us establish rules that make families work. So Elder Robert D. Hales of the Quorum of the 12 said this: "A child's willingness to choose the Lord's way and family values is greater when they choose to do it than when those values are forced upon them." And this principle is sometimes hard because as children get older, we want to control them. But ultimately, our job as parents is to help children become independent and be able to live on their own. And of course, all of these principles, these three principles, require seeking help from Heavenly Father. Every child is somewhat different from other children in a family. So it requires a parent to seek Heavenly Father's assistance to adjust these principles for each child. And the research shows that parents who can apologize to their children generally have better relationships with them than parents who feel like they always have to be right. So when one of my sons was 14, I had the opportunity to teach his priesthood class. And there were 14 boys in this teacher's class, and the topic was family communication. And I asked each of them during their time in the week, what percentage of time did they actually have conversations with their parents? So as you might imagine, they said that they spent more time talking with their mothers than they did their fathers. The percentage wasn't very high for either. I think they said they spent about 10% of their week talking to their mothers and about 5% of their week talking to their fathers. And then I asked them what their parents talked to them about. And all 14 of those boys said this: they talked to us about what we should do. For example, they said our fathers talked to us about things like taking out the garbage and doing chores around the house. And then the second thing they said their parents talked to them about is they tell us what not to do. My son was in this class, and I realized that all of these comments applied to me. So you might recognize that these conversations were mostly about setting limits or doing discipline. So I decided as a father, in that class that I needed to show more love to my son. So I spent more time with him, and I stopped talking about the things I thought he should do or the things he shouldn't do. I told him stories from from the time, stories in my life from when I was his age. And I listened more, and it changed our relationship.